Done my back in yesterday at the gym.
Maude's exhaust, a bit bent up. Cut it and fingers crossed we can get this exhaust system to work. Touching the anti-tramp bar. I did beat the floor with a hammer. Still quite loud.
Looks rubbish.
Magnetic tray. Front wheels, they're actually quite sunk in. Bad knocking noise. Diff in this car makes a bit of a racket, only when you're turning one way. All right, people, I'm pretty confident that I've found the problem.
Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Marcus Hayes, and today you join me from the cockpit of my favourite car, Esther, the ST170 powered Mk2 Escort. Now, since the last video, I've had a haircut and a beard trim. I've also managed to get my GoPro Hero 10 working properly again. I just gave it a factory reset and fingers crossed, everything seems to be okay so far. But on a more negative note, I actually done my back in yesterday at the gym because I'm an idiot and I tried to put too much weight on the leg press. Anyway, it is what it is. I'm certainly not going to let it hold me back too much. Just got to take it easy for a little while. Now today I'm heading over to my other garage with a main objective of just tidying up because I didn't get a chance to the last time I was around there. And then I'm hoping that I've got time to have a look at the exhaust on Maude because she's booked in for an alignment in 2 days, although it's not far from where she's stored, so I could drive her there without an exhaust fitted, but I don't think the police will like it if I drive past any. On the day that Maude gets aligned, I'm going to start taking this car apart to fit the new AL Development cylinder head. There's still time for you guys to get your entries in for my competition to win a free porting service from AL Developments. So just check the last video for details of how to enter. Now, while I think of it, I want to let you guys know that the new Marcus Hayes air fresheners are now available to purchase on my website at marcushayesuk.com. They come in packs of 3, they're £9.99, and that includes free UK postage, although worldwide shipping is also available. And they absolutely stink of new car scent. So yeah, love how these smell. I personally think they look pretty cool hanging from your rear view mirror. And yeah, they're a really cool, low-cost way for you guys to support and represent the channel if you would like to.
All right, people, I've completely changed my mind in terms of the order I was going to do things today. As for tidying up Esther's garage to get Maude into it, I'm probably going to try and do that today, but we'll see. I will need to pull Heidi out of her garage to do that because in there is where the engine hoist lives. Anyway, what I have actually been cracking on with since I've been around here today is Maude's exhaust. Just to recap, this is the 2¼ inch Ashley system that I removed from Maude recently. It's a bit hanging. The silencer doesn't sound like it's doing much anymore. The car actually sounds straight piped when this exhaust is fitted. And the front of this section here, where it goes onto the manifold, it sort of rotted away years ago, so I just extended the slits down slightly and then I was able to pull the whole system forward to enable me to carry on using it. Now, when I pulled that system forward, as I just mentioned, the back box, this is obviously a different back box, but the back box ended up hitting the handbrake rod, which isn't ideal. And then more recently, the front of the back box section, the pipe that goes into the back box, was actually hitting on the anti-tramp bar, which is here in front of the rear axle. So today I've been mocking up the system that I bought recently that is actually a 2-inch system because I mistakenly thought that Maude's old system was a 2-inch system when it's a 2¼ inch. And yeah, I've been seeing if I can make it work. So I've got it all sort of mocked up, hanging under the car. I've got an exhaust rubber holding the back box onto the original exhaust mount. Now this system has a couple of hooks here which don't quite line up with my mount that I've got there, which is actually a seat belt or a harness eye, which I've cut a slit in and turned into a hook, and that's actually screwed into a captive nut that is for rear seat belts, I believe. So yeah, that doesn't line up properly with that. But on the old system, I had like a bolt-on mount thing, a bit bent up where I was banging this system to get it off. But yeah, you see what I mean. It's literally attached with this nut, so you can put it wherever you want on the system and do the nut up. So yeah, I've got this system sort of in place. I've tried to orientate this joint so that it's in the best sort of position where I don't think it would be hitting the anti-tramp bar, etc. And yeah, it follows the floor quite nicely. But obviously the problem is that this is, you know, too much of a narrow bore to fit on the 2¼ inch exhaust manifold, which, as you can see, has got some other bits of tube attached to it. So I'll just take this off. So this arrangement is in 2 pieces. This piece here, I think actually came with Esther's Piper stainless exhaust system, and Maude's 2¼ inch manifold slips perfectly into that. And then what I've got attached to it, I've got a clamp on there at the moment, and I've done it up with a gun, so I won't remove it. But yeah, you can see that it stops there. So this piece here is actually slid into this piece, and I had to cut a few slits in this piece, you know, just like it's got here, just so that when you put the clamp on, it clamps up tight. And I actually got this piece from Steve at Speed Shack when I went there last. And the bore of this centre section here would actually wrap around this perfectly tightly. But if I'm going to make this arrangement work, then I will need to cut down this pipe anyway. I'll figure out exactly where in a minute. But I've just been having a look around this area. It seems like it's going to clear the tramp bar for a start. And, you know, it's not going to rub on this hook, which I'm, you know, aiming to use as a mount once the front bit is in the correct position. Another thing I've just been looking at around here to determine where I want to cut the front of that pipe, you know, is I've just been pushing the exhaust system back and forward. And, you know, if it's too far forward, it will hit on this hook, but it's well clear of the tramp bar here. If it's too far back, it hits on the tramp bar where it meets the axle. So, yeah, I need to sort of decide where I'm going to leave it before I cut the front bit of pipe. So, yeah, I'm not sure if this is going to work, but it looks like it might work enough for me to have a go. So, yeah, the angle grinder and the generator and that are already out from when I had to cut the slits on that little bit of tube. So, yeah, I'm just going to scratch my head for a little bit longer, mark where I think I need to cut this pipe, and then cut it, and fingers crossed we can get this exhaust system to work, at least as a temporary solution. Moment of truth. Other way around, Marcus. Might need to cut more off the pipe, but I'd rather not cut enough than cut too much. Take 2. Got the exhaust pushed back as far as it can go. It looks like it might just be easier to just trim this slightly. Like that. Well, it's on there. Definitely very close to the floor in many places. And it's also touching the anti-tramp bar, although, you know, there's room for it to sort of manoeuvre, but then manoeuvring that away from the tramp bar does inevitably make this hit the floor even worse. I think I'm going to try and adjust the orientation of this slightly. I almost gave up, but I think it might work, but it's going to require one more cut. I've bent the hook that's on the back box a little bit. You could see that the exhaust system was too far back. Where the back box is hitting the tramp bar, if the exhaust was slightly more forward, it would miss that. So the question is, do I cut this again? Or do I cut a bit off of this adapter thingy? I think I might as well cut the pipe. All right, I knew I was going to run out of light soon, so I just raced ahead, and I've actually got the exhaust fitted quite well. I actually had to cut the pipe twice. I cut it once and it was still a bit too close to the tramp bar, so I cut it again. I've got all the clamps done up tight. It sits very close to the floor. I did beat the floor with a hammer. That paint you can see is where I marked it, where it needs to be beated. This area I actually used a jack. But yeah, still very close to the floor in places. Definitely think this area here could do with a bit of a jack up or a beating. Where it meets the back box, got a clamp on there. I haven't got any type of mount on this part yet. I am just about to able to make it hit the tramp bar. But yeah, I think if I was to sort out some sort of mount there, it might actually be all right. I haven't actually looked at the back box since I've been messing around. But yeah, it's on the original mount still. The back box isn't touching the leaf spring. And yeah, it clears everything, like the axle, handbrake rod. So yeah, this exhaust is definitely fitting better than the old one was when it was fitted. I suppose now it's time to hear what it sounds like. Hopefully it will sound slightly less straight piped than the old one did. Still quite loud. Doesn't sound much different than the old system, to be honest. Now obviously it might mean that this silencer is just as worn as the other one was, or maybe the bike carbs resonate more through the exhaust, because Maude's old system was never always that loud. So yeah, I don't know whether to maybe get a twin box system when I get the other Ashley system for this car. I don't know. Right now I need to pack up all my stuff around here. Got loads of metal and stuff on the floor that I want to sweep up before it gets too dark. Actually looks lighter on the camera than it is in real life, but yeah, I am fast running out of light. But I will be continuing this video when I'm round here next, which will probably be tomorrow, so I'll see you in a sec.
Hello, into a new day, and me and my beautiful girlfriend Kat have just got out of the gym. I've got plenty of endorphins flowing around my system, so I'm very happy, but my body is absolutely knackered. My back is now a lot better, stayed away from the leg press today. Now we're heading over to my other garage, and unfortunately the weather looks rubbish. I'm hoping it's not going to rain too heavy while we're there. I've got so much going on tomorrow that I really do have to at least tidy up my garage today and get Maude back into it, because tomorrow I'm going to need to get this car into it to start taking it apart. Also, there's something that I discovered on Maude yesterday, which means I'm going to be undoing one of my utter bodges that I did recently. But yeah, we're going around the M25 to get to the garage, so hopefully there's no traffic. London's biggest car park. Crazy Lexus. Definitely a bit of a drifter boy, I reckon. Well, he's got more negative camber on the rear than the front though. It's a bit of a stancy boy then, I reckon. I'll check out the G. That's awesome.
All right, we have made it to the garage, and before I crack on with anything, I want to show you something that was sent through the post to me by a guy called Andy Richards. What I've got here is a Halfords Advanced magnetic tray. This is going to come in so handy when it comes to preventing me from losing bolts when I take my cars apart. It's got two huge magnets on the back, and yeah, the tray is nice and big. I have actually got a magnetic tray somewhere in one of the garages, but it was really small, so it didn't really hold much. But yeah, this one looks like a proper decent bit of kit. So yeah, massive thanks to you, Andy. Really appreciate you sending me that, and thanks for the handwritten note that you included in the package as well, and that will be treasured forever with all the other letters that I've received from people. Now, it hasn't rained yet since I've been here, so I want to hurry up and get Esther's garage tidied up, because then I can pull Heidi out of her garage and put the engine hoist in there where it belongs. I've had a couple of people asking if I was going to sell this, but the thing is, we butchered it to clear the very low quality sump that was fitted to Maude. So yeah, it's not very good. Definitely took some strength out of it. Another thing that people have been asking me if I'm going to sell are the low quality sumps. I've got 2 of them now. They're in these boxes. But to be honest, I won't be responsible for having that company's parts fitted to anyone's engine. So yeah, I won't be selling either of them either. Not going to throw them away yet. They might come in handy to put on engines when they're on a stand or whatever. But yeah, definitely won't be selling them. Definitely don't have enough space for the junk that I've got, but sometimes you just got to make do with what you've got. Anyway, now that all that's sorted, I want to let you know a couple of things I discovered about Maude yesterday after I put that exhaust on. First of all, if you look at how much poke I've got on these front wheels, they're actually quite sunk in compared to how they were when we had the old suspension on. Obviously, the camber and stuff is going to be set tomorrow when I get the car aligned, but that's only going to push out the bottom of the wheel realistically, and there's actually quite a lot of camber on it already, so if anything that's probably going to be dialed back. But yeah, there really is quite a lot of space here, and the main reason that I decided to fit the standard RS hubs rather than going with a set of the alloy hubs like I've got fitted to Esther, you can just see them in there, is because I was worried that if Maude had the alloy hubs, then I wouldn't have enough clearance between the tyre and the arch, because those alley hubs that are fitted to Esther actually push the wheel out 10 mil. But yeah, as it turns out, I've definitely got at least 10 mil space there. So I could have actually fit the same hubs that I've got on Esther to Maude. Now, not only would they have made the fitment, you know, similar to how it was before, which was quite aggressive, they also would save a little bit of unsprung weight on the front, which is quite necessary on Maude because our wheels are so heavy. But they also would have meant that I didn't need to grind the calipers to get them to clear. And it's worth noting that the hub on this side is actually still rubbing on the caliper. So that's going to need another little tickle with the grinder. But I'm thinking, you know, in the not too distant future, I'm actually going to get a set of those alley hubs, and I'm going to buy a brand new set of the M16 calipers. So then it will do away with the dodgy ground calipers, and it will improve the front wheel fitment, which is actually a bit weak now. Now, there was another thing that I noticed when I took the car for a spin yesterday, so let me explain. When the old exhaust was fitted, there was a really bad knocking noise coming from the rear passenger side, you know, when you sort of boot it. It seemed to go away a little bit when I realigned the old exhaust slightly, but with this exhaust on, that noise is still there. There's no mount, you know, attached on the exhaust just in front of the rear axle, so potentially this exhaust could be hitting the anti-tramp bar and causing that noise, or maybe the noise was coming from somewhere else all along. Now, the diff in this car makes a bit of a racket. Only when you're turning one way for some reason. It sort of feels like the wheel's skipping, like as if you've got a welded diff, but that's obviously not happening. It's obviously the clutch plates in the diff slipping. And yeah, this diff was rebuilt by a company that I don't normally use. So I don't know if this other noise is also coming from the diff, but yeah, you can feel it in the chassis as well as hear it. I don't know whether there's a bush under there that's worn, or, you know, as I say, if it's just this exhaust is hitting the tramp bar as well. But yesterday, I did think of one thing that probably isn't causing the noise, but I want to rule it out. And that is this spare wheel that's in the boot and not strapped down or anything. I'm just wondering if this is what's causing my noise. I very, very much doubt it, but I'm going to pull this out. Take these worn semi-slicks out as well, and I'll just take Maude for a quick rip down the road and back. Well, I can hear the exhaust hitting the floor at the front here, but that's to be expected because it is very close to the floor at the front. But yeah, this other noise is only when you boot it, you know, when the car's proper under load, when the car squats. I heard it then. It's not doing it as much because it's wet and the car's not squatting. All right, people, I'm pretty confident that I've found the problem. If we look at the tunnel there above the prop shaft, you can see that something and it can only really be the prop shaft, has been rubbing. Now, there is loads of gap in between, you know, the prop shaft and that prop shaft tunnel. But yeah, I can easily, you know, get my whole hand around there. But yeah, those marks are very clear. I do have a diff bump stop fitted, so, you know, I'd like to think that that would prevent this happening. But I do also have, you know, the Type 9 gearbox, you know, lifted up as far as I can get it. Although I haven't got a tunnel razor plate on the tunnel or anything like that, so I'm pretty sure other people with ZTEC conversions have their gearbox a bit higher than mine is. So, yeah, a bit strange. Maybe the reason that it's not as bad as it was before is because I've done away with the spacers in between the cross member and the chassis. So the engine essentially is now, or the cross member is now sitting higher than it was, which will make the tail end of the gearbox potentially, you know, push downwards, sort of seesaw effect. So therefore the prop shaft is probably a bit further away than the floor than it was. The other thing is, I've just thought of now, is if the shock absorbers are that worn, maybe they're allowing the axle to sort of, you know, go up further than it otherwise would. So yeah, I'm happy that I'm pretty sure I've figured out what's going on. I think the next thing I'll do is change those shock absorbers and see if that stops it. And other than that, I might have to look at maybe lowering the gearbox slightly. Alright, so back at home, and my beautiful girlfriend Kat is already rustling us up some dinner, which I'm really looking forward to. I am so glad that I've finally figured out what has been causing that weird noise from the rear end. I was actually thinking maybe the axle bump stops, which I've cut down because the car's lowered, maybe I've cut them down a bit too far, but I would expect the shock absorbers, you know, to prevent the prop shaft hitting the tunnel. You know, the bump stops in my mind are supposed to be a sort of last resort for, you know, if you went over a really big bump at high speed. But anyway, hopefully fitting the GAZ shock absorbers will solve that issue. If not, I'll just have to lower the gearbox a bit. But there is quite a lot of gap between the prop shaft and the tunnel. So yeah, I think it's something to do with the suspension allowing the axle to go up too much. Anyway, tomorrow, as I've already mentioned, I'm going to be getting Maude aligned, and then she'll be coming back on the road, and I'm going to be starting to take Esther apart to get her new cylinder head on. And yeah, in literally a few days, she'll be going on the dyno, so fingers crossed that goes well, and we come away with a little bit more horsepower. Now, before I end this video, I want to send another massive thanks out to Andy for sending me the magnetic bolt tray. That's definitely going to come in really handy. I also want to send a massive thanks out to everyone who's already been grabbing the new air fresheners since I posted the pics on my social media. And massive thanks to everyone who has been giving me advice recently. I really appreciate the fact that so many of you that know what you're doing more than I do always do get in touch to give me advice. Anyway, Kat has literally just brought our dinner in, so I've got to go. If you did think this video was any good, please do give it a thumbs up and a share. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Click subscribe if you're new to keep up to date with all my future uploads, and check the links in the description to my social media, my own website. I'll leave a link to my Patreon down there for any of you guys that want to jump on that. Massive, massive thanks to all my patrons. I really, really appreciate your support. I'll leave my email address in the description for anyone who wants to contact me. But other than that, until next time, from me and my beautiful girlfriend Kat, thanks for watching.